For the Marines, the sailors of Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 242, and the members of USS America crew, the eyes of the world are on you and your ability to integrate with our key ally. I want you all to remain focused and ensure the successful execution of this critically important capabilities test that you should be very proud to be a part of. More importantly, critical members of the region will be watching closely. They will have to recognize the bilateral interoperability demonstrated by this event cannot be accomplished by any other member in the region.
At the request of the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, the U.S. Marine Corps successfully conducted the first ever landing of two F-35 Lightning II aircraft aboard Japanese ship Izumo on October 3, 2021.
Japan's new aircraft carrier has the whole world shaking in their boots, and every single world leader is scrambling to make deals with Japan to get their hands on this amazing piece of technology that's going to shape the future. This carrier's capabilities are second to none and are sure to set the benchmark in the world of strategic warfare and offensive capabilities of a nation. What does this new aircraft carrier have that sets it apart from the current fleet of carriers deployed across the globe? Will it really be a game changer, or is it all hype? Let's find out together. But before we explore this amazing new vessel, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to get notified when we release new videos on the world of warfare. Japan is a nation that is so very advanced in its thinking that it lies at the forefront of the technological race, and yet Japan does not maintain an army. It sounds a bit unbelievable that a powerhouse like Japan would not maintain an army, but it's enshrined in Article 9 of their very own constitution. This came about because they traded their right to have an army after World War II for sovereignty from the United States. Even so, Japan is dedicated to maintaining a de facto military force called the Japan Self-Defense Forces, which has stated that it would only act in self-defense and under no other scenario. Japan has shown a vested interest in developing its military strength and has an express interest in developing a new generation aircraft carrier based on the Izumo-class helicopter carriers of the Japanese Navy. Although Japan takes a very pacifist stance nowadays, during World War II, Japan had one of the largest and strongest military forces in the world. At the time, they had equipped themselves with the largest aircraft carrier, which they dubbed the Shinano aircraft carrier. It was a converted Yamato-class battleship that was 265 meters long and 36 meters wide. That's large even by today's standards. But the ship was sunk just 2 days into its maiden voyage by 4 torpedoes shot by the U.S. Archerfish submarine. Japan's last aircraft carrier was the Amagi, one of 16 Unru-class aircraft carriers built for the Imperial Japanese Navy. But the Amagi suffered an even more sorry fate than the Shinano, as it was destroyed in the bombing of Kure Naval Base by the Americans. The ship never even left Japanese waters. Cut to today, Japan's naval fleet is 155 strong and consists of 2 carrier-class ships, the first being the Hyuga-class and the second being the Izumo-class. While the Hyuga-class is a helicopter carrier, we are here to talk about the Izumo-class of carrier ships, which have many nations quaking in their boots. The Izumo-class of carriers only has 2 ships in operation as of now, the first being the Izumo and the second being the Kaga. Japan first expressed its intent on developing a successor to the Hyuga-class ships in 2009, when the Ministry of Defense stated that their plans for the successor to the Hyuga were in development. Learning from their mistakes, Japan stated that the main purpose of this successor would be to combat submarine warfare. The Izumo-class ships were meant to replace the Shirane-class destroyers, but Japan ended up keeping the Shirane-class destroyers as well. The construction of the Izumo ended up costing the Japanese government 113 billion yen, or 1.5 billion American dollars, and was constructed in the IHI Marine United Shipyard in Yokohama. The ship was finally launched on the 6th of August 2013 and commissioned on the 25th of March, 2015. Soon the second Izumo-class carrier, called the Kaga, started getting constructed in 2013, launched in 2015, and finally commissioned on the 22nd of March, 2017. Both the Izumo and the Kaga were initially labeled as helicopter carriers, and only hosted helicopters on their decks and were heavily criticized for being constructed and commissioned when tensions over the Senkaku Islands with China were the highest. It especially put China on edge, as the helicopter carrier had all the makings of a conventional aircraft carrier, but Japan did not back down, although they were criticized for making the carrier's aircraft ready, as all equipment on board was able to accommodate aircraft. The Japanese had later admitted that they had incorporated the possibility of expanding the Izumo-class ships into proper aircraft carriers, but only made such an intention public in 2017 when they stated that they would like to convert the Izumo-class carriers into light aircraft carriers, and the craft they had in mind was the American-developed and constructed Lockheed Martin F-35B STOVL jets. STOVL stands for Short Takeoff and Vertical Landing, which means that these jets need no external force to propel them to the sky and can both land and take off vertically. China's criticism of the Japanese government's choices only increased after this decision was made public, but nonetheless, Japan pressed on. Later in 2018, a newspaper called the Yomiuri Shimbun leaked that Japan had purchased over 40 of these F-35Bs and would be compatible with the modified Izumo, and stated that one of these carriers could carry over 12 of these fighter jets. Yomiuri's leaks were not far from reality, as they were confirmed by Japan's Minister of Defense later that year, officially announcing the conversion of the Izumo-class carriers into light aircraft carriers and stating that they would be operating 42 F-35Bs. The initial plans included strengthening the decks of the ship to withstand the additional weight and heat produced by the F-35Bs, and further plans were announced to shape the deck of the ship from a trapezoid shape to a rectangular ship, which is now completed. This was done akin to the U.S. Navy's Wasp-class and America-class amphibious assault ships. This modification has been described by the Japanese government as the first stage of the Izumo-class ship's step towards becoming a light aircraft carrier vehicle. The next stage of modification will be to replace all the crew stations and other relevant sections of the ship, while the Kaga undergoes its first stage of modification. Now we have to ask the question that everyone's been waiting for. Are the Izumo-class ships really better than every other aircraft carrier out there? Well, let's compare and see. The Japanese fleet is usually compared with that of the American Navy's capabilities. The Izumo's U.S. counterparts are the Nimitz-class aircraft carriers and Gerald R. Ford aircraft carriers. The first major point of difference is the cost sunk into building one of these carriers. The U.S. counterparts cost significantly more than that of the Japanese, with the Nimitz and Ford class carriers costing $9 billion and $17 billion, respectively. These cost way more than one Izumo-class ship, which only costs $1.5 billion. The second point of difference is that the Izumo-class carriers are much smaller than their U.S. counterparts, as they only have a displacement of 27,000 tons. Compare that with the Ford's 106,000-ton displacement, and you'll see that the Izumo gets completely dwarfed. It's not just in displacement either. The Gerald and Nimitz are nearly twice as wide as the Izumo, longer, and can accommodate more crafts than the Izumo and Kaga combined. But the one place the Izumo stands out is the amount of personnel that's required to operate the vessel. The Nimitz and Ford require nearly 3,000 plus staff, while the Izumo only needs 900. The Izumo trades firepower for speed and maneuverability. Although it can only go as fast as the Ford, it's much easier to control on the high seas compared to the Nimitz and Ford. And for the cost of one Ford, nearly 12 Izumos can be built. As it stands, many nations like China and Russia, which have territorial disputes with Japan, are staunchly against the modernization of Japan's fleet, as they believe it could embolden Japan to act out against their competitors and lead to strife in these disputed regions. So there you have it. Japan's new fleet of modernized Izumo carrier ships is sending many nations surrounding them into a state of panic. As their capabilities increase, Japan is moving forward and able to lay claim to territories that were once staunchly protected by their competitors. So what do you think? Are the Izumo-class carriers an actual threat, or are they overhyped? Is there going to be a shift in the balance of power on the global stage? Let us know in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this.